Radhe Radhe to everybody. Prathamam Sadgurum Vande Shri Krishnan Tadanantaram Guru Papatmanam Tratam Shri Krishnastwamalatmanam Kasturi Tilakam Lalat Patale Vakshasthale Kaustubham Nasagre Varmauktikam Karatale Venu Kare Kankanam Sarvange Harichandanam Sulalitam Kanthe Chamuktavali Gopastri Pariveshtitam Vijayate Gopal Chudamani Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tagvang Devamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukchurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. The Divine Souls. Welcome to this series on the Gita. In this series, we'll be covering roughly one chapter each day, and not every single shlok of every chapter, but the main points, the most important philosophical concepts from each chapter. So today we'll start with chapter 1. And keep in mind that this is Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, bhakti is recommended above all else. It's the only path to God which is possible to follow in Kali Yuga. Even in other yugas, it's the supreme path. All other paths depend on bhakti, but in Kali Yuga, it's the only one that's even possible for an ordinary person to follow. So for that reason, I'm going to be sharing with you the highlights of each chapter as they relate to the path of bhakti and as they can be applied practically in your life. Everything I'm going to share with you is based on the teachings of Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj and how he explained the philosophy of the Gita. Before we study anything, we need to know why we're studying that thing. So Gita is a scripture of Hinduism, but why is it important to learn the Gita, and why do we have faith in what's written in the Gita? After all, as far as we're concerned, today, where we sit, what is Gita for us? It's a book. It's paper and ink, right? Why do we have so much faith in what's written in the Gita? Why is it considered to be authoritative, divine? First, we have to understand this, then we'll have faith in the philosophy that the Gita is going to tell us. So what is the Gita? To know what is Gita, you have to understand a little bit about what the Veda is, because Gita is said to be the essence of Vedic teachings. So let me give you a brief introduction to the Vedas, then we'll understand what is the Gita. Ved is the foundation of all Hindu scriptures. Whether it's Gita, Puranas, Ramayana, Darshan Shastras, whatever it may be, they're all based on the Ved. Ved tells everything, whatever you need to know. What we call Sanatan Dharma is from the Vedas. And all the other scriptures further explain what's already revealed in the Ved. They may expand upon it. They may emphasize one particular teaching of the Vedas over another one. But the point is that everything is in Ved. Nothing is left out. And Shri Kripaluji Maharaj always said that whatever saint comes, even if Bhagwan himself comes and says something which is Ved Viruddh, which is contradictory to the philosophy of the Vedas, it is unacceptable. Even if God himself were to come and teach some philosophy which contradicted the teachings of the Vedas, then we would still do pranam to him because he's Bhagwan, but we would not accept his philosophy. And it goes for all the other scriptures. All the other scriptures have to coordinate with Ved for them to be considered authentic. Ved is eternal. It's not an ordinary book. In fact, it's not a book at all. It's represented in the form of a book for us on this earth planet, but it's not a book. Nishvasitamasya Vedaha Vikshitamasya Panchabhutani Smitametasya Characharam Suptam Chasya Mahapralaya. Ved itself reveals that before doing Srishti, Bhagwan produced the Vedas. When he does Srishti, this mantra says, Vikshitamasya. He just looks at Maya. Maya is his own power, his material power. He looks at Maya and Maya comes to life. It becomes activated and the universe is produced. Smitametasya characharam. He smiles and all the living beings come into being. And suptam chasya. He goes to sleep and the whole universe dissolves. So before he does any of that, before he produces the universe, before he produces the living beings, he produces the Ved. Why? Because Ved is for us. God doesn't need Vedas. He already has all the answers. He doesn't have any questions. Maya doesn't have any questions either, because Maya is a Jada Shakti. It's a lifeless energy. Souls have all the questions. Souls exist in one of two states, either under Maya or beyond Maya with God. The ones who are beyond Maya with God, they don't have any questions either. They've attained the ultimate, so they have absolute knowledge and absolute bliss. That means that Ved is required for us, those who have not attained God, who are still under Maya. During Mahapralaya, we're not active. So during that time, we don't have any questions either. When God dissolves the whole universe, suptam chasya mahapralaya. He does mahapralaya. The whole universe is destroyed. All those souls who are under Maya become dormant at that time, because there's nowhere for them to live in an active way. They can't go to the divine world. They're not qualified. They haven't attained God. So they simply remain within God in a completely inactive state. So at that time, they don't have any questions either. But when Bhagwan does Shrishti, then all those souls, we're going to go forth and be able to take birth in the universe. And as soon as we're born, when we receive a human birth, our mind is active, then we have all the questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I supposed to be doing here? Is there a goal to my life? Is there a God? We have all these questions. So just like before a baby is born, milk comes in the breast of the mother so that as soon as the baby is born, there's nourishment ready. In the very same way, God makes sure that spiritual nourishment is ready for us even before we're born. That's why he produces Ved even before he produces the universe. When I say he produces Ved, it doesn't mean that he sits down and says, okay, I'm going to create the universe and some souls are going to go forth and be born. They're going to have questions. Let me write something that will answer those questions. That's not how he does it. Because Ved existed before as well. The universe existed before Pralay, I mean. There was a Pralay. Before that, what was there? Srishti. The universe was there. Surya Chandrama Saudhata Yatha Purvamakalpayat. Rigved says, God produces the universe again as it was before. It means that it's an eternal cycle. Creation, dissolution. Creation, dissolution. Srishti, Pralay. Srishti, Pralay. So the universe never began. It's an endless cycle of creation and destruction of the universe, which means that the Ved has been required since eternity. We've been here forever. This cycle of creation and dissolution of the universe has gone on forever, and God has been here forever. So we, the souls, have had such questions forever. Thus, the answers need to have been there forever, and they have been in the form of Ved. So God never initially created Vedas. They're, in fact, an eternal power of God, which resides within him. And he simply produces Ved outside. That's it. Nihishvasitamasya. It says he was sleeping during Mahapralay, and he exhaled, and out came the Ved. It means Vedas reside within God, and they're produced outwardly by God. He gives that knowledge of Ved to Brahma. Brahma is responsible. He's one of the governors of our little Brahmand. There are unlimited Brahmans in this universe. Sankhya chet rajasamasti na vishvanam kadachana. Brahma Vishnu Shivadinam tatha sankhya na vidyate. Devi Bhagavad Puran. Vedavyasji writes that even if you could count every grain of sand and every particle of dust on this earth, you still couldn't count all the Brahmans in this universe. Why? Because the number of particles of dust on the earth is limited. Seems like it would be impossible to count all of it, but even if you could, it wouldn't be an unlimited amount. It would be a huge number, but still limited. But the number of Brahmans, Brahmand means an earth planet with souls living there, and also a Swarg and Narak, which we'll learn about in the second chapter of the Gita. That's one Brahmand. There are unlimited number of Brahmans in this universe. And each Brahmand has a Brahma, a Vishnu, and a Shiva, the three governors of a Brahmand. So wherever a Brahmand has been created, there's a Brahma, a Vishnu, and a Shankara there. And Shri Krishna, Supreme God, he gives the knowledge of Vedas to Brahma for those souls of that earth planet. Veda is the same no matter where you go in this entire universe. Same Veda is there wherever there are souls. Because God is one. Why would he bother producing different scriptures? Veda is good for all the souls, since eternity, anywhere in this universe. Kalena nashta pralaye varniyam veda sangita adau brahmane prokta dharmo yasyam madatmaka. Bhagavatam. Here Shri Krishna is telling Uddhav that since the Veda in the form of books is lost during Pralay, so I have to adau, first of all, brahmane prokta. I give the knowledge of Veda to Brahma. Then Brahma gives that knowledge to the first rishis. When I say give, again, it's not a lecture, or he doesn't hand them a book. Shri Krishna just transferred, you can say like a wireless transmission, from his divine mind into Brahma's divine mind. That's it. And since the rishis were also divine personalities with divine intellect, so they received that transmission from Brahma. It's also called Varni, but it's a very subtle form of Varni. Varni means like a word. But this Varni, which you're hearing from me, is the grossest form of Varni, when someone is speaking audible words. There's a very subtle form of Varni as well, which is possible between God and Brahma and the saints. So he transfers the Varni, or he gives the Varni of Vedas in a very subtle form to those first saints. And it's passed on through generations of rishis and munis. But eventually they produce it in a written form. However, when they write it, it's not their own composition. It's the Ved. Same Ved that exists eternally within Krishna. Same Ved he gave to Brahma. The same thing they write down on paper. And then Veda Vyasji comes at the end of every Dwapar Yuga and reproduces it again in a written form, which happened a little more than 5,000 years ago. Thus we have Veda available today. Shri Krishna said in that verse I quoted you from the Bhagavatam, Dharmo yasyam madatmaka. What is in Vedas and why do I give it to Brahma to make it available on earth? Dharma is in the Vedas. And what is Dharma, he says? Very simply, in 2 words. Yasyam madatmaka. How souls can come to me, that's Dharma. You can think of Dharma as being a set of guidelines, rules that God has given us in the Vedas for how to live. Like an owner's manual for the human body. You buy a new car, you get an owner's manual, right? You look, okay, what kind of gasoline am I supposed to put in here? How much am I supposed to pump up the tires? What kind of oil does it take? You follow what's in the owner's manual. Well, this human body needs an owner's manual too. What's good? What's bad? What am I supposed to be doing? What's the goal of my life? Is there a reward for being good? Is there a punishment for being bad? All of those rules are told in the Vedas. These are our guidelines. So this is called dharma, the guidelines. Some people call it duty, some people call it religion. But think of it as a set of guidelines and practices that God has given us. And it's for our benefit. So if we follow it, we're physically healthy because he gives us physical guidelines as well. We get mental peace. And we promote harmony in the family, the society, and the world through our behavior, if our behavior is according to Dharma. So the guidelines are there. then we perform karma. Karma means our actions. If that karma is in line with the dharma, it's good for us. Not only do we promote harmony in the world, but in fact, by following dharma, we elevate our own consciousness from a worldly consciousness to a more spiritual consciousness to a godly consciousness, and eventually to such a consciousness where we remember God all the time and our mind is attached to Him all the time. This is what the Gita teaches. So all of this is achieved by following dharma. You can actually separate dharma into two categories. Abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhi sadharma. Our darshan shastras tell us that dharma gives you abhyudaya and nishreyas. Abhyudaya means peace of mind in this life and good health in this life. And nishreyas, ultimate happiness. Dharma is for both. How to make your life good in this life and how to attain your ultimate goal, which is actually God realization. So the Vedas tell us all of this in tremendous detail. Lakchantu chaturo Veda tatha laksham tu bharatam. Ved says originally there are 100,000 mantras in the Ved. And there are 100,000 shlokas in the Mahabharata. Today we're talking about Ved. So 100,000 mantras. Out of that, a full 80,000 have to do with getting abhyudaya. Meaning, how should you live your life in the world so that you can be a good person, not cause trouble to others, and have a nice, healthy, harmonious life and get peace of mind in this life. So, in other words, how to be a good person. That's called getting abhyudaya. A full 80%, 80,000 mantras of the Vedas refer just to this, how to be a good person. The rest have to do with a little deeper understanding of worshiping God, and there's a small part of that, a little more than 6,000 mantras, which have to do with the deepest philosophy of understanding who is God and how to attain God. This part is called Upanishad. So the Upanishads deal with nishreyas, how to find your ultimate happiness by reaching God. The whole rest of the Vedas, how to be a good person in the world. Thus, the Upanishads are considered to be the essence of all Vedic knowledge. Vedas are divided into branches. Just so you understand what an Upanishad is, there's 100,000 mantras of Vedas, but that's each individual mantra. On a little bit larger scale, Veda is divided into different branches. For instance, what we call Sam Veda has 1,000 branches. Rig Veda has 21 branches. Yajurveda has 109 branches, and Atharva Veda has 50 branches. So if you add it all up, it's 1,180 branches of the four Veda. Each one of those branches is also divided into sections. So there's one section in each branch which deals with how to attain God. So that little section is called the Upanishad for that branch. For instance, there's a Taittiriya Shakha. Shakha means branch. There's a Taittiriya Shakha of Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda. It's just 3 chapters out of the whole long Taittiriya Shakha. So those 3 chapters are called Taittiriya Upanishad. In there, there's a conversation between Bhrigu and Varun, two divine personalities, that explains who God is. Anando Brahmeti Vyajanat. God is perfect happiness. Raso vai saha rasagvam hyevayam labdhvanandi bhavati. Only by attaining God, who is perfect happiness, can a soul become perfectly happy. In the same way, there is one Upanishad in each and every branch. So, there are 1,180 Upanishads. Now, they're not all available nowadays, but you'll be interested to know that of the more than 200 that are available today, 108 have been described to be most important. Bhagwan Ram says so in Muktika Upanishad. He tells Hanumanji that out of all the Upanishads, there are 108 that are most important. They're like the essence of the Upanishads. Out of those 108, every one of them is available in a written form today. So even though the whole Vedas aren't available, but the most important knowledge of how to attain God is available in full, as described in our Upanishads. So Upanishads are the essence of Ved, and Ved is the origin of Sanatan Dharma. The Dharma described in Vedas is called Sanatan Dharma because Ved is eternal, so Sanatan Dharma is eternal. What we call nowadays Hinduism is actually Sanatan Dharma. It never began. It's eternal. And all of that knowledge is from the Vedas. The essence of Ved is Upanishad. However, understanding Ved or Upanishad is very, very difficult even for a highly educated Sanskrit scholar. Anantaparam gambhiram durbigahyam samudravat. In the Bhagavatam, Vedavyasji, who knows the whole Ved, he writes, the meaning of Vedas, the meaning of each mantra of the Ved is like an endless ocean. The meaning is so deep. If someone just reads it on their own, they can never understand the true meaning. So even though Ved and Upanishads is to answer our questions, yet if we go and try to read that on our own, we'll only get more and more confused. We're not qualified. Even a Sanskrit scholar is not qualified to read Ved on his own. In the Bhagavatam, when Shri Krishna tells Uddhava that I give this knowledge of Vedas to Brahma and he gives it to the rishis, eventually it's produced in the world in a written form, he says then there's a problem. Then worldly people can interpret it and give their own explanations of Ved. But worldly people are of three kinds: Sattvic, Rajas, and Tamas. Good, selfish, and bad. A Sanskrit scholar may consider himself to be qualified to read Vedas and interpret them and teach others about them. However, his mind or her mind is either Tamas, Rajas, or Sattvic, and Ved is divine. So how will that Sanskrit scholar, with all of his learning, correctly interpret a divine scripture? Even if he has a Sattvic mind, he won't do it correctly. So he'll give a Sattvic interpretation of a divine scripture, or a Rajas interpretation of a divine scripture, or a Tamas interpretation of a divine scripture. Like if I all of a sudden in the middle of my speech go, all of you sitting here will give your own interpretation quietly in your mind. Why did he do that? Oh, was he trying to get someone's attention? Was he trying to remember something and that's how he remembered? Does he just have some kind of nervous tic, like every once in a while he claps his hands? See, the real reason is inside here, you're all trying to interpret. In the same way, Ved has its divine meaning hidden within each mantra, but only a divine personality can understand the true meaning. Everybody else, even the greatest Sanskrit scholar, will warp the meaning distort the meaning of any mantra of Ved or Upanishad. Thus, to make all of this knowledge more understandable, Shri Krishna produced many other scriptures through saints, like Puranas, like Ramayana, Darshan Shastras. Now, these aren't meant to be studied on their own either. They're all meant to be learned with the help of a true divine personality. But they give us more help in understanding this necessary knowledge. Now, another scripture which is there to help us understand the philosophy of Vedas is Gita. Vedavyasji writes about the Gita, Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandana. Keep in mind, Upanishads are the essence of Vedas. Here Vedavyasji is saying Upanishads are like cows. So imagine 1,180 cows. Shri Krishna went and milked those cows, and the milk is the Gita. It means that Gita is the concentrated essence of the Upanishads, which are the essence of Vedic knowledge. Gita is condensed. It's only 700 shlokas. In only 700 verses, Shri Krishna encapsulated the whole philosophy of Vedas. Now, he has both apar dharma and paradharma, means aparadharma is the dharma that gives you happiness in this life, well-being in this life. And paradharma is that which gives you God realization. Both are there in the Gita, because both are there in Vedas. However, Gita is called Brahma Vidya Shastra, which means the scripture which contains the knowledge of God. So Gita is primarily for attaining God, because that is our ultimate goal. After all, having well-being in this life is only a temporary thing. We can have well-being in this life, be reborn again and again and again, but what's the ultimate goal is to attain God. Thus, the Gita's main focus is God realization, although it also talks about aparadharma, how to be a good person in the world. One should not think that just because Gita is called Brahma Vidya Shastra, that by reading Gita or by listening to my speech this week and understanding the philosophy of Gita, that you are going to know God. Well, it's Brahma Vidya Shastra. I should be able to read Gita and know God, right? No. Vedas say, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. Kathopanishad. You cannot know God by listening to pravachan about God. You cannot know God by reading in scriptures about what God is. You cannot know God by debating scriptural philosophy, no matter how intelligent you are. Then what is Gita for? Gita is for showing us the path to God. By understanding the philosophy of Gita, we get the practical knowledge that we have to apply in our life. So we know what we have to do to reach God. We understand what we have to do to know God. But we don't know God simply by reading Gita or learning Gita. If that were the case, I'm sure most of you sitting here have probably read Gita many times in your life, but you haven't gotten God realized yet. Millions of people in this world have read Gita, yet they failed to become God realized because we didn't practice what Gita is teaching. First of all, we may not have understood actually what Gita was saying, but even if we did, we didn't practice it. We didn't become Arjun. So we didn't get the divine vision of Shri Krishna, and we didn't attain God. Now you have a broad understanding of what Ved is, what Upanishad is, and what Gita is. Gita is the essence of the Upanishads. Thus, it contains Dharma. The very first shlok of Gita starts with the word Dharma. Dharmakshetre kurukshetre samavetayuyutsavah. Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay, oh, tell me, what is happening in that Dharmakshetra, in Kurukshetra? So he's referring to Kurukshetra, the battlefield where his sons, the Kauravas, are going to do battle against Pandavas. And he's saying, what's happening over there? Please tell me. Because Sanjay has received divine vision and divine hearing from Vedavyasji himself, so even though they're back in Hastinapur, Sanjay is able to see and know what's happening there in Kurukshetra, the battlefield where this war is about to take place. And Dhritarashtra refers to this battlefield as the field of Dharma, Dharmakshetra. But Gita does not only mean that that battlefield at that time was the field of Dharma. It means this whole world for us is the field of Dharma. Think of a field like a soccer field or a cricket field. When you play any game like that, there are rules, right? You have to follow the rules. If you don't, there's an umpire or a referee who watches. Oh, you broke the rule? Here, have this punishment. The umpire or referee also keeps track of the score. How many runs have you made? How many outs have you made? Or how many goals have you scored? Similarly, for us, this whole world is a playing field. The rules I explained to you, that's Dharma. And God made the rule book, Vedas. So the rules for living on this earth, in other words, the rules for playing this game, being a human being, are kept in the Vedas. That's the rule book. So the rules are called Dharma. Thus, this whole earth is called Dharmakshetra. Then we perform the actions, meaning we play the game. We do good, meaning we follow the rules, we follow Dharma. We do bad, meaning we break the rules, we don't follow Dharma. And who's keeping track of all of this? God is keeping track. So he's the referee. But this referee can never be fooled and he never misses anything. If you're playing on the soccer field and you see, oh, the referee's looking the other way, you trip your opponent. No problem, the referee didn't see you, you get away with it. When you're driving to Radha Madhav Dham, maybe you come from up north, you come from Round Rock or Cedar Park, and you're thinking, oh, it's so long and I'm going to be late, I better go faster. You're breaking the speed limit. If no police officer is there to catch you, then you get away with it. In other words, in this world, you can break the rules and get away with it. However, in the field of Dharma, there's no getting away with anything ever. There's never even a timeout. You know, in soccer, at least the whistle goes, you get a break, the game's over. Then after the game, if you go and trip somebody, there's no penalty, right? Because the game's over. It's like a timeout. But in this field of Dharma, we never even get a 1-second break. God is sitting right in our heart, watching our every thought, every moment, and noting everything. From the moment we're born until the moment we die, he keeps track of the whole thing. So he never misses anything. We try to do chori in this world. You know, we try to think, chori doesn't just mean physically stealing something. It means, let's say a child is getting scolded by his father. And in his mind, he's not, he's sitting there, oh, yes, father, yes, father. But in his mind, the child is thinking, oh, I hate it when he scolds me. Doesn't he know? In his mind, he's thinking something bad against his father. That's chori, right? He's thinking, Whatever I'm thinking, no one else knows. So I can get away with thinking whatever I want. That's what we think, right? Nobody knows what I'm thinking. I can think whatever I want. Husband and wife are sitting together. Wife is looking at the husband thinking something. Husband says, "Oh, what are you thinking about?" "Oh, I was just wondering, are you going to get a haircut soon?" That's not what she was thinking. So that's chori, right? But there's no chori from Bhagwan. He knows every single thought. Thus, our game here on this field of Dham is always continuing. God is keeping track, and then God gives the consequences, meaning when we leave this body, when this body dies, we're reborn, we get another birth according to our scorecard in this life. God gives us our next birth and determines what good and bad things will be destined to happen to us in this life, according to our scorecard in this life. So you see that the Gita has to explain to us about Dharma. Dharma is the main thing. What do I have to do? What do I have to do to be a good person? And what do I have to do to reach God? In order to explain this, a whole situation was created. What situation? This war which was about to happen. In the middle of the battlefield, on the verge of the war starting, Arjun started asking questions. This became the platform or the basis for Shri Krishna to reveal the knowledge of Dharma, the essence of Ved and Upanishad, right there on the battlefield. Someone might wonder, that whole conversation, everything that was uttered that day between Arjun asking the questions and Shri Krishna answering the questions, how do we know that the Gita we have today is the same conversation that took place that day? We need to have faith in Gita, remember? We need to know why. Why am I going to study Gita, and why am I going to put importance in what Gita says? You understood part of that Gita is the essence of Vedas, which are produced by God Himself. And you know, Gita was said by God Himself. Shri Krishna is God. He said the Gita. But how do we know the written Gita we have is the same that Shri Krishna said that day? Was Arjun taking notes? No, he didn't have a pen and pencil that day. All he had was his bow and arrows. He wasn't expecting to have this big, long conversation with Krishna. Was anyone else taking notes? No, no one else on the battlefield could even hear what was being said. Did Sanjay or Dhritarashtra take notes? Again, no. Shri Krishna himself took the notes. Not at the same time that he was speaking, later. In the Bhagavatam, more than 10 avatar of Shri Krishna are described. Everybody knows Dashavatar, 10 main dissensions. In Bhagavatam, there's one place where 22 avatar are described. There's another place where 23 are described. In that description, there's one personality named Vedavyas. I told you he comes and he rewrites the whole Ved at the end of every Dwapar Yuga. Vedavyasji is another form of Shri Krishna. Krishna was there on the earth in his form as Krishna. At the same time, he was there as Vedavyas, another form of himself. So as Shri Krishna, he told the Gita to Arjun, and as Vedavyas, he later wrote the Gita. When he was writing Mahabharata or dictating it to Ganeshji, at that time, he told the whole Gita and it was written down. So if you have confidence that God is omniscient, that God would not forget what he said that day on the battlefield, then you can have confidence that whatever Shri Krishna said is the same thing which got written down at a later date because he only wrote it himself. This is the Gita that we have today. The situation that allowed Shri Krishna to tell the Gita is a very interesting one. You've all heard of the Mahabharata war. That war was about to begin. Arjun was on his side with his 4 brothers, the Pandavas, and millions of warriors who were supporting them. And on the other side, Kauravas were there, their wicked cousins, 100 cousins, led by Duryodhan and Dushasan, and millions of warriors supporting their side. And the war was about to begin. They had even started beating on the drums and sounding the conches, which was the signal that now we're going to attack. Back in those days, they followed more rules of warfare than we follow today. Nowadays, you can do a surprise attack. Back then, it wasn't like that. They agreed, okay, we're going to have this war. We'll meet at this place on this day. They would start at a certain time. When the sun went down, they would stop. They could even go and meet each other. Once the sun went down, you could go and visit the enemy's camp and talk to someone. No one was going to kill you. So they were announcing, now we're going to start the war. And once that had been announced, and they were just about to start fighting, Arjun says, Senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapayamechyuta. Hey, Shri Krishna, take my chariot, because Shri Krishna was driving Arjun's chariot. Take my chariot into the middle, in between the 2 armies. I want to look in both directions and see the faces. Who's fighting on my side? Who am I going to be fighting against? So Shri Krishna took the chariot there, and Arjun looked and got confused. He says, Sidanti mama gatrani mukhancha parishusyati Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate Gandivam sransate hastat vakchaiva paridahyate Nacha shaknomyavasthatum brahmativa cha me mana. He became so emotionally disturbed. Why? Because he looked into the faces of those against whom he was going to fight, and he saw Bhishma Pitama, my great-grandfather. I grew up in his lap. He gave me so much love. I have to try to kill him. Kripacharya, our family's guru. Dronacharya, my guru who taught me warfare. So many relatives, so many loved ones who are on the side of Duryodhan, and I'm going to have to fight against them. Seeing that, he became emotionally distraught. That's why this first chapter is called Vishad Yog, which means grief. Arjun was grieving. Before anyone had even died, he was grieving. That, oh, all these people are going to die. And he became shaky. He said, Sidanti mama gatrani, my hands and arms are becoming like numb. Gandivam sransate hastat, Gandiv, my bow, is slipping out of my hand. Vepatushcha, my whole body is shaking, my skin is burning. I don't even think I can keep standing. Nacha shaknomyavasthatum. My mind is totally confused. Brahmativa cha me mana. And he collapsed in the back of the chariot and he said, Nayotsya iti govindam. Oh, Govinda, I'm not going to fight this war. He gave his reasoning why he didn't want to fight, that Nakangshe vijayam Krishna nacharajyam sukhani cha. I have no desire for becoming king. I've already enjoyed the pleasures of this earth. Ruling again, it's not going to give me anything. I also don't desire to be known as a great warrior, the one who became victorious in this great battle. And if we fight the war, so many of these people are going to die. I don't want them to die. He's attached to them, right? They're his relatives, they're his friends. So he said, Krishna, I do not want to fight this war. Shri Krishna is thinking, you couldn't have realized this before we got here in the middle of the battlefield? You're going to embarrass yourself and you're going to embarrass me. We prepared for the last year for this war. You didn't know against whom you were going to be fighting. You knew exactly who was going to be on either side. You couldn't have decided before we got here that you didn't want to fight against them. No, Arjun waited until everybody was arrayed on the battlefield and the war was about to start. Then he got a doubt. Is this the right thing to do, to fight this war? This gave the platform for Shri Krishna to explain the whole Gita to Arjun. In order to answer Arjun's question and clear his confusion that is this the right thing to do, to fight this war, Shri Krishna had to explain a lot. Every question leads to another question, and every answer leads to other bits of philosophy and knowledge. So to explain the whole thing, Shri Krishna had to talk for 2-3 hours. If you recite the Gita, if you do it quickly, it takes a few hours. So the conversation definitely lasted for 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours. But everyone had to wait because they were following the rules of warfare. Until Arjun and Shri Krishna went back to their side, they were not going to begin the war. This confusion of Arjun's is a very common confusion which we face in this world. The confusion we get when we're attached to people or to a situation, and that attachment clouds our judgment. See, Arjun couldn't decide what to do because he was attached to the people against whom he was going to fight. He had fought many wars in the past, many battles. He didn't have such doubts then. He had doubts now because he was going to be fighting against Bhishma Pitama and other loved ones. You also, although you may not have to fight a war, you have many decisions to make in your life. Big decisions, small decisions. Is this right? Is this wrong? And many times you're attached to the people that you're having to decide about, and it becomes difficult for you to make your decisions. So Arjun's situation relates to our life today because we also get emotional, we also get confused, and we don't know what's right and wrong. So how Shri Krishna explained all of this to Arjun, whether Arjun was right to not want to fight the war, or if he should fight the war, and if he should fight the war, why is that the right thing? All of these questions will be answered as we go forth in this explanation of the Gita. So please join us this whole week as I continue with the philosophy of the Gita. Tomorrow night we begin at 7:30 and we'll get to hear Shri Krishna, what he says when he starts talking. The whole first chapter, Arjun is talking. Shri Krishna doesn't say a single word in the whole first chapter. He just listens. Arjun gets everything off his chest. Whatever's in his mind, he tells Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna listens patiently, doesn't say anything. And once Arjun stops talking, then Shri Krishna starts answering his questions. Then we get to understand the real philosophy of the Gita. So from here, where Shri Krishna starts speaking and answering Arjun's questions, I'll explain from tomorrow night, and this series will continue for the whole week, Monday through Saturday, 7:30 to 9 every day, and the final segment will be this same time next Sunday. So we'll cover 6 or 7 chapters of the Gita in this series, and next time I come, we'll go further ahead. There are 18 chapters, so we'll get through 6 or 7 of them this week. So I hope you can join us for the whole week. We'll also be serving dinner prasad every day before the program. Dinner served at 5:30 this week, 6:30. 6:30 to 7:30, dinner prasad will be served, so please come and join us for dinner. Then we'll have Arti at 7:30, and I'll give the Gita Pravachan up until 9 every day. बोलिए वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की।